Now let's refactor our implementation. In a login page, we have this button, which is disabled based on these values, and it has this spinner and it has this text in it. And just like this one, we have same functionality in the sign up button. So instead of repeating this in both of these components, let's extract this part as a new component. So under components folder, creating a new file, and this is button with progress, and just copying this part, this button from sign up page or login page, it doesn't matter, and pasting here. So in this component, we need these properties, this disabled, this API progress, and let's move this to the next line. And also we need this function, this on-click assignment, and also we need to import spinner, and we need this API progress, and we need this button text. So let's make sure this component is looking for those properties. And first let's import spinner. It is in the current directory with this component. And let's have properties export let, and the first one is, let's say, the text. The text will be used right here, and the next one is, let's say, the disabled, and the other one is API progress. And let's have this function, let's call this one as on click, so let's assign it right here. So we have this component, and let's use this one in login page. So here importing button with progress from components folder, button with progress. Now the spinner is in that component, so we will not use spinner anymore. So right here, just going to replace this one with button with progress. And now we are going to set the properties. The first one is, let's say, the text. This is looking for a text, and the text will be this one. And the next one is this disabled. Disabled is disabled. And the other one is API progress. Here it is looking for API progress. We can go with the shorter way of assignment. So instead of having the property name and the assignment both are having the same text, we can just go like this, and we can do the same thing for API progress. And the other property is on click, so we can pass this on click to it like this, on click, and that's it. Now we don't need this button, so we replace the button implementation with this button with progress. So saving this one to make sure everything is fine, and the tests are passing, and we can verify the functionality here in this login page. Here the button is enabled, and if we click this one, it is displaying spinner, and the spinner is gone after the API call is finishing. So basically we are able to catch the click events from this one, and the properties we are setting to this one is also applied as we expected. And also our tests are confirming that behavior. Now in this button, we no longer set the text in this one as a child element like we do right here. So this is HTML button, and this text is child element for this one. But in our custom element, we are setting the text as a property. We can also add child elements to our custom components. So just like this one, let's remove this text assignment and let's change this one to something like this. So here we are opening this button with progress tag and closing here, and in it we are adding this text. So we are adding child element to our custom component. Now to use this text in our component, we will update this one like this. So instead of text, we no longer receive text property, and we were displaying the text right here. Here we are going to use a special HTML element, and this is slot. So this slot is dynamically filled with the child element we are passing to it. So if we save these changes, here in this window we can see the text is right here and the login page tests are passing. And let's use this button in sign up page 2. So just removing the spinner from this login page and just copying this button with progress import and pasting right here in the sign up page. In this one we will not going to use spinner 2, so removing that spinner import, and here we are going to replace this part. So we will have button with progress. So we are going to set the disabled, we are going to set API progress, and we are going to set the on-click functionality, which is submit for this case. So we will set on-click property of this button with progress, and we will set submit for it. So just commenting out this part. So we don't have child element added to this button with progress. So saving this one, and let's open the sign up page. So here in sign up, the button is shown like this because there is nothing in it, and the tests are also failing for the sign up page because there is no text in it, so we cannot query that one and we won't be able to click that one in test. 27 tests are failing. So when we are using slot in our custom elements, we can have fallback values. So for this slot we can set the text like this one. So here we are seeing the text button, and if we go to login page we see the login text. So this slot is displaying this button text if it is not having any value assigned to it. So this is a fallback value. If there is nothing in the slot, then this one is visible. But in login page, here we are adding a child element, this one, and this is filling this slot. Therefore the text we are passing right here is visible. So for the sign up case, we will also show this sign up text. So just copying this part, pasting here, and removing this commented out parts and saving all changes. And if you go to sign up page, here we can see the sign up text is visible in it. And here we can see all tests are passing. So we extracted this repeating functionality. So it has this logic to show hide the spinner, and it has this functionality to disable the button. So instead of repeating this part in both sign up page, login page, or any other page we may need in future, we extracted this part to a separate component and we use that component like this. So with this way we are creating reusable components. We extracted this button with progress as a separate component, and we have this functionality, this slot. And we can do same thing for another repeating part in our application. In sign up page, we have this form of card layout of Bootstrap. We have card header, card body, and we also same thing in the login page. Here there is card, header, body, and also in user list we have this card, header, and this one also has card footer. So instead of repeating these parts, let's create a new component and let's use this one for our repeating layouts. So under components, creating a new one, and this is going to be card Svelte. And basically the card is having a div, and the root div has the class of card, and in this div we have another one, and this is generally for like this card header and text center, and we also have same thing right here. The difference is we are setting the text center in the h1 instead of div, and we have the same thing in the sign up. So this has the class of card header and text center, and in this div, in this header, we are having this h1. So in the user list we have this h3 as a child element, and in sign up we have this h1 again as a child element in this card header. So just like we have this in button with progress, we are able to include child elements to our custom components with the slot. So for this one, we will also have a slot right here. We also need to have slot for the card body part. We also have elements in here, so we will have multiple slots. So let's add the div for card body, and in this one we will also have slot. Now we have two slots in this card, and whenever we add child elements to the card, it won't be easy to figure out which element will go into which slot. So we can specify, for instance, this header, this h1, we can tell put this h1 to this specific slot, this one, by setting slot names. So for the slot we can set the name, and let's call this one as header. And we don't have to set name all the time. For instance, we didn't do that in the button with progress, and when we don't set slot name, it is considered as default. So whenever any element is added as a child, that slot is used automatically. So the card is partially ready. Let's use it in, let's say, in sign up page. So here in sign up page, let's import card from components card Svelte, and here in the form we were using the class card right here, but let's do it like this. Let's wrap the card with form. So we have the card right here. Now we don't need to use this card style anymore, so removing this class from the form. Now we are going to have this h1. We no longer need to define these divs, the header and the body. All we will do is just move this h1 into this card, and we tell this card to be used in this slot, header. And we do that by using the attribute slot, and we want it to be used in this header. we no longer need to set this text center class too, because by default in this div everything is centered. And then we will be adding these elements, the inputs and the button right here, to our cart. And we can do it like this, just cutting this part and pasting into the cart. And now we can get rid of this part. We no longer need these divs for cart header and cart body. So we have this cart now. We are having this h1, which will be positioned into the slot having the name of header, this one. And we also have these other elements, and we are not specifying any slot for them. So by default, these elements will be filled into this slot. So let's save these changes. And here in sign up page, we don't see any difference. And if we inspect this page with the Svelte extension, here in sign up page, we have this cart. We are filling the slot in the cart header, and we are filling another slot in cart body, which is default with the elements right here, input and the button. So let's also use slot name for the body. So let's say this is body. Now, to make this inputs to be visible in this slot, we need to wrap all this part with another element like this div, and moving to here, and we can say this div to be slotted to body. We have to do it like this because we cannot use this slot attribute for custom elements. So that's why we are wrapping this part with another div and setting slot for it. So saving these changes. And here we can see the page is still same. Now let's use this cart in login page too. So just like we did in sign up page, importing cart from components, cart Svelte, and here we are going to use cart in this form. Now we don't need to set the class to form for cart, and just like we did for the h1 right here for sign up page, we assigned it to slot. So we will do that one right here, moving h1 into cart. We don't need to set the class text center anymore because it is already set in cart, in this cart's header, and we are going to set the slot as header, this part, and we are going to be displaying these elements in another div, and this is going to be put into the slot of body. And let's move this input and the button part into this one. So just like this, and that's it. We don't need these divs anymore. So saving this one. So opening the login page, here we can see the form is same. Now let's use this cart in user list too. So again, importing cart from current directory, cart Svelte. Now in this cart, Now in this user list cart right here, we have this div, and we have this cart header. We have this cart footer, which we don't have our cart yet. So first let's add a div right here for cart footer, and let's have a slot in it so that we can add elements into this part. And the name is, let's say footer. So in user list we are going to use the cart, so here adding the cart, and we will have this h3, and this is going to be visible in slot header, and just removing this div, and we will have this unordered list right here. It wasn't part of either cart header, or we don't have the cart body in this user list. So the current cart layout is taking child elements into these div blocks, but in user list we have this element unordered list, which is not part of any of those header, body or footer. So to display this one, let's add another slot right here after this cart header, and let's set this one like this. Let's not set a name for it, so it's going to be default. So if we move this one into this cart, this h3 will be added right here. This unordered list will be added right this slot, and then we have this cart footer. So let's have a div right here, and let's slot this one into footer right here, and let's have this part, this control part in it. So we just replaced this implementation with our custom cart. So let's save these changes. Now let's go to home page. Here we can see the user list and the footer, but there is a styling issue here. The format is a bit broken. So there is a space right here between this user list and the footer, and that's coming from this cart. There is this cart body. If we inspect this part right here, we can see there is this cart body, and it is filling this space. So this cart body is part of the cart component, but in user list we don't need that cart body to be visible. So that's the situation right now. We can make these slots to be conditionally visible, and for this one we can do something like this. So this cart body will be conditionally visible, and we can do this by adding an if control right here. So if will be starting from this one and ending at this line, and the control is, now we are going to check if we have any assignment to this slot body, and to access to the slots used for this cart component, we can do like this, $$ slots. So we are accessing to the slots used in this component, and we can check if there is body. This one is used, is assigned. So in this slots object, we are checking if there is body. If we do, then we are going to display this part. So let's save this one. So if there is no body slot assigned to this component, like in this cart in the user list, we are not using the slot name of body, we are using header and footer, but the body is not used. Therefore this if check is making sure that body is used or not, and if it's not used, then it's not displaying this cart body. And here in the user list, if we inspect this part once again, here we have cart header. In the cart we have cart header, we have this unordered list, and we have this cart footer. But if we go to the sign up, here we can see we have the cart body visible right here. So just inspecting this part, here we have cart header, cart body, and also we have this cart footer, which was not part of our forms previously. So login is also having this cart footer. So just like this body usage, we are not using the cart body in user list, and also we are not using the footer in login or sign up page. So this part must be also conditional, and we can conditionally show that one again like this. If slots has footer assignment, then we will be displaying this div, otherwise we won't be showing this footer. So saving this one, and here in the login form we no longer see the footer. In sign up we are not seeing the footer. And if we go to home page, here we see the user list. We have this user list which is not part of the cart body visible, and we don't see any extra space here. So now all the layouts are back to their style. This lecture is more about practicing the slot for different use cases, and with slot we are able to extract the repeating markup as a component and reuse them with different use cases.